Gator Bowl, Kentucky and Clemson coming up on the 29th. So much to get to before that. Certainly, we got Jason Priester here from ClemsonTigers.com. Jason, how we doing today?
We are pretty busy, man. I'll be quite honest with you. My phone won't stop buzzing and everything's blowing. It's been a busy week. Busy week, man. Football practice, portal stuff, recruiting, signing days a week away. You name it, I got it going on. Heck, I even had basketball media today. So it's a little bit of everything right now.
And then you got to deal with me dialing you up.
Oh, that's one of the brighter sides.
Appreciate that. Well, it's good to have you here as always. I'm going to run down the typical laundry list here, and you can just tell me what's going on because I've done a bit of a search around. Don't see anything in particular, but we'll start with what everybody else is talking about. We see a new 2 or 3 or 4 names every hour. The transfer portal. I know that not a whole lot has happened there, but at the same time, what are the rumblings about what could happen?
Clemson's 0 for 2 on offensive linemen. That's what's happened so far. Kid from Shorter, Adam Herring, they were supposed to get him to town for an official visit this weekend. Never made it that far. He went to Penn State last weekend, committed almost immediately, announced it Monday. Another portal player, both of these are offensive linemen, who they had been targeting was Keelan Rutledge out of Middle Tennessee State. Had a connection there with Rick Stockstill. Rick Stockstill, the former head coach at Middle Tennessee State, used to be an assistant at Clemson. Rutledge was supposed to visit last weekend. Got in a car accident Saturday. Was never able to make it in. Pulled the trigger and committed to Georgia Tech today before even rescheduling that visit. So it just goes to show you how fast things can move in the portal. Sometimes I do think it's interesting because I don't see Shorter, definitely not Shorter. I think he was a guy that was going to, if Clemson lands him, he's a tackle prospect that's probably going to need at least a year before he's ready to play at this level. Rutledge, I'm not, maybe he comes in and compete for some playing time. I'm not sure he would have. Interesting that Clemson's not targeting these plug and play guys, but some guys with a couple years of eligibility left who they can finish developing under new offensive line coach Matt Luke. And I think Rutledge maybe sees a faster path to the playing field at Georgia Tech than he does at Clemson. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating. But again, it just goes to show you, man, it's different when you're recruiting in the portal. Talked to Matt Luke yesterday, Clemson new offensive line coach. He's been away from the game 2 years now. He last coached the 2021 season at Georgia. And while the portal was around then, it's kind of on a different level now, man. It's kind of blown up the past 2 years. So he's kind of getting his feet back wet into that thing. And, I even asked him about it, how much more difficult it makes it, because he talked about developing relationships with guys for 3 years, during the recruiting process. And now with this portal stuff, you got to do it in 3 days sometimes. And he talked about how difficult that was. And so we'll see if Clemson has any luck landing any guys. They're at least making the effort. They want to add at least a couple offensive linemen and a defensive end, from my understanding.
Well, Jason, when it comes to fan base's mindset, I don't know if this has hit the Clemson fan base in particular, but just about everybody across the country, unless you've got maybe a top 5 to 10 quarterback that's coming back, and there's situations aren't that often. Everybody wants a quarterback, and there's so many in the transfer portal. Has Dabo been asked about that?
Yeah, he actually was yesterday. Paul Tyson is coming back next year, so Clemson's got 4 quarterbacks. They're not going to the portal looking for a quarterback. He made that pretty clear yesterday. I would fully expect Trent Pearman, who came, he was a redshirted last year. He's a redshirt freshman last year. Came on as a walk-on, a local kid, a 2-time Gatorade State Player of the Year. I mean, the kid can play, man. People just think Clemson fans have these big biases towards kids out of Daniel High School, which is right down the road from Clemson, because he's a coach's son and all that. I fully expect he'll go on scholarship, man. And Clemson's got their 4 quarterbacks, so Klubnik, Chris Vizina, Paul Tyson, and Trent Pearman, although Tyson's kind of going to serve as the 4th guy. He wants to get into coaching. He's going to kind of be a player coach next year. He'll be more of an emergency option, but then they'll roll with those 3.
Let's move it on to the NFL draft decisions that need to be made. I think Will Shipley's among those. Do you have any feel for where we stand on that? Has anybody made a decision known yet?
2 weeks ago, I thought he was gone. I'm not so sure anymore. I've kind of been told in the past week he's kind of been torn on that thing. But Dabo Sweeney made it sound like yesterday that he's coming back. He didn't say that. It's just the feeling that I got. He said he wasn't gonna, he said that Shipley had made a decision, but he wasn't gonna steal his thunder. He'd let Shipley tell us whenever he talked to us next. And he's definitely gonna play in the bowl game. So whatever decision he's made, he's gonna play in the bowl game. The way Dabo made it sound yesterday, just going by his tone and those kind of things, I kind of leaning towards thinking he comes back. So I think you're going to have all those same running backs next year back on the team, minus Dominique Thomas, who transferred out, who was the third string guy.
We're in this age of opt-outs, but I got to say, some of the early returns from some of the major schools across the country, some really big teams, is pretty encouraging in regards to guys that you would think would have no reason to play in a bowl game, would be looking at their NFL future. And even if they've made that decision and it's to go to the pros immediately, a lot of guys are playing bowl games this year. So maybe we've settled into a place where it's just going to be, as it has been for almost 10 years now, it's just going to be the way bowl season is. There are going to be opt-outs, but maybe we've gotten to a place where it's just not going to be, complete teams walking away from the rest of their teammates for bowl season. And maybe we've reached some reasonable place there.
You look at Kentucky, who Clemson's playing in the Gator Bowl. Ray Davis, who I think is going pro. He's going to play in the bowl game. So there's a perfect example of that. Xavier Thomas for Clemson, he's going pro. He's going to play in the bowl game. Clemson's got a couple that aren't going to, like Nate Wiggins is going pro. He's not going to play. Rukaroro's going pro. He's not going to play. So there are a couple guys right there. But yeah, it does seem like we're seeing less or fewer opt-outs this year than we have in the past. And I think that's a good trend.
Bunch of Ohio State players, which I expected just a mass exodus because they're going to have so many NFL draft selections. And most of those guys are going to play in the bowl game. I was surprised by that.